Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. We're doing it. We're in the pod.
I love it. We're in the pod.
That just
All
came to me.
right.
That's what it feels like.
That's fun. I like it. That's fun. So why don't you kick us off with what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, I like it, Joe. You're just right down to business. Let's just get into it. Let's just get into
Yeah,
it.
but no small talk today. I
Okay.
know you know
Yeah.
me. I know you.
That, that is not how work actually works. We get down to it in this podcast. Okay. No messing around. Okay. So I'll set the tone then, because I'm excited for today. We are taking a deep dive into a model, yes, but what we want to do is add some real practicality to it. So
Yes.
I feel like setting the tone around how interactions at work play out. And I kind of think of it this way. Every interaction tends to move people in one of two directions. They can sometimes either move toward threat or toward safety. And there's a model, one that we like, that we want to pick apart, that's kind of explains the why behind it. And
Yes.
so what does
Perfect.
this mean for the individual? What does this mean for a leader? What does this mean for a team? How can we maximize it? What does it look like when this isn't done well? We're going to cover all of that in a jam-packed 38 minutes, because that's our sweet spot, by the
It's
way.
wild that we always kind of hit the
Yeah.
38 minutes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
People go, we
Yeah.
don't want
No.
1 minute longer. So let's see what we
Yeah.
can
In
stick
fact,
to.
if we're mid-sentence at 38 minutes and change, we're just stopping the podcast.
Yeah, let's just quit. We'll just quit it right there. So
Yep.
yeah, let's get into it. Why don't you tell us which model we're picking apart here today?
Yeah, well, in the spirit of the coldest day I've ever experienced in Florida, which is
Yeah.
only 33 degrees Fahrenheit at 6:30 in the
that's
morning,
Yep.
we need a scarf to stay warm, but it's the scarf model, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
that
dad
works.
jokes are always part of the
Oh my
podcast.
gosh, that works.
So it's this, and this is inspired by some comments from our friends in the Quad, who we've talked about in another podcast. The Quad is my group of amazing people that I've worked with. We sat in the Quad together, and they're still using the scarf. I'm still using the scarf. So you're still using the scarf. Why not talk about it? Because it's been so ingrained in how we think about leading others. Because,
Yeah.
we all feel threat when we talk about threat, we all feel psychological threat of like something sort of rustling in the bushes. That's primal reaction doesn't change in the workplace when we feel a threat to and the scarf model is the threat model when we feel threat to our status, to our certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. Those are the 5 aspects we're going to cover today. We'll break them down. We'll talk about what it looks like when it's going wrong. We talk about why it looks that way. And then we'll give you some ideas around how to create, because status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, fairness, this whole scarf model, it's not just a threat model, it's a reward model. There's a way to create status reward instead of threat, and so on. So that's what we're going to talk about today, the scarf.
Okay, let's do it. We'll button up.
All right. So we're going to start with status, which
Yes.
is our sense of importance. We all have this need to feel like we belong and when we matter and we're important, and we feel a threat to status. For example, when we see our leader give a great project to someone else when we thought we should have had that project. And just to be fair, the person feeling the threat is not always right. That just because you don't get the project doesn't mean you absolutely deserved it and you have a right to feel a threat to status. It simply means you're feeling a threat either way. So as a leader, it's not about saying, well, you know what, John had no expectation of that project, so that status threat's ridiculous. No. You have to figure out why John is feeling that way and what could you do instead.
Because Joe, I kind of look at it again, just really practically. What does this look like on teams or in organizations when it's not being done well and the intention isn't to create threat on the team?
That's right.
I don't think there's many leaders out there that are thinking, oh, I'm going to publicly correct this team member because I want them to feel bad, or I'm trying to create a threatening environment.
Yeah, some leaders maybe, but a very, very, very small percentage.
But it is the action of doing that can result in the person's status being affected.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So there's this, whether you publicly correct someone, I'm thinking of one individual I used to work with way back when, and to them, like people's titles were so important to them.
Yes.
And I remember this person saying, I go, did you get the email? And they went, I only read the emails of VPs and above.
Ooh.
And I
Interesting.
remember thinking, I just thought there was such an attachment to the status in that way, even if she said it in a joking fashion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
it does create a perception for everyone else hearing that, right?
Mm.
So
You
that
reminded me of someone who would treat people differently based on their status. So
yes,
it's not so much aligned with the scarf purely. It's not status threat as much as it's like someone who is, you know, they talk with greater respect to people above them than people below them, and everyone kind of knows it. So you feel a lack of status with that person in a sense because they're
sure,
disrespecting you based on your title or level. Um,
yes,
so yeah, these are the ways it goes wrong. And think about a time, anyone sort of listening or watching, when in your career did you feel that little pain of, oh, why didn't I get that? The why
right,
didn't I get that is like this reaction we have even from when we're kids, when we get the report card and the grades. And we're not saying it's right. Like if you're really truly mindful, status in life doesn't matter as much. But in the workplace, status still comes up and it's a biological response, right? So sometimes we
sure,
feel the status pang, even though we don't want to feel that.
right.
Um,
So in
yeah,
the opposite then, like if we're trying to create the safety side of it, the awareness of that then becomes
right.
what? It's we're starting our meetings or our conversations with appreciation by
Yes.
right,
Yes.
giving context to the situation versus just here are the problems or here's what so and so did wrong. We talk about like what's working. We give an acknowledgement of effort. With those kind of all, I guess those would all fall in there, hey Joe, of like the better
Yeah,
way to
right. The raising of status, because status is the reward. It's offering someone a development opportunity. Because
okay.
sometimes when people first see the scarf model and they think status, they think title and money, which are
Right.
important, and we get it. We've talked about this before. And you
Sure.
can't always get a
Sure.
new title and new money. So how else can you raise status? It's here's a new development opportunity. I believe in you and I want to send you to this workshop. It's sending some to a conference because you're giving them an opportunity to go out there and bring knowledge back to the team. Or it is, giving them that project that gives them more exposure, putting them on a project with others where they'll feel a
Mm,
sense of status, where they're working with people and learning something new. Maybe it's a project that they're not leading, but it's a higher profile thing. So they feel a sense of status.
yeah, I like that. What about certainty
Yeah.
in terms of how this can go wrong? We're starting with the negative, but that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, how does this show up in a way that can lead to people feeling that feeling of threat showing up for people or
Yeah.
teams?
I think certainty is unique as well, I believe, because certainty is the one where we create the most fiction in our minds, right?
Hmm,
So in every case, we tend to assume the negative as human beings because we want to play defense instead of offense, so to speak. It's like so we kind of make the assumption of, the reason behind things are usually like the wrong reasons, not all positive reasons. I think certainty is the big one here because it's like our ability to predict what's coming or to have a sense of certainty when we take that away, when we create uncertainty has this threat response of people start telling the most negative story of like, oh, the organization's going out of business, or I'm going to lose my job. So that's the real threat of certainty. And it usually takes place around rumors that oftentimes turn out to be true. So, if
hmm,
there's smoke, there's fire. People know from previous jobs that when there's a rumor of restructuring or a rumor of this, more often than not, it comes to true. It comes true. So you may as well be careful as an organization when a rumor's out there because people are talking about it and they're thinking about it, and there's probably some truth to it. Shifting deadlines. Hey, why do we move this deadline without explanation? Now I feel this threat of certainty that "Well, I don't know why I have to get this done more quickly, and you're not giving me any more resources or anything to do it. Anything that you've kind of experienced around certainty that you want to add to the mix there?
well, I think there's something about not owning what you're there to talk about,
Yeah.
right? It's if we leave this vagueness, I just feel like, Joe, I feel like people can handle bad news. They
Yes.
can't handle ambiguity.
That's right. That's right.
Like that's just what I've seen is the miss that I
Yeah.
worked with a team once where if the person would have just been honest about the state of the nation, right?
Mhm.
Going,
Mhm.
here's the situation, here's what we know, here's what we don't know,
That's
and
right.
being clear about that. I think people can handle it.
Yeah.
More so, you know?
Yeah, the hesitation to say what you can in times of uncertainty, right? It's, hey, if things are instead of saying nothing, say
Mhm.
something that even throws uncertainty into the mix, because at least you are controlling the message.
Right.
You're saying, hey, I don't know how this is going to play out, but here's what I know. That will actually cause people to feel a greater sense of certainty because you're telling them everything versus, hey, I don't know what's going on. I haven't heard that. Those are just rumors. Don't pay attention to rumors. It's that kind of nonsense. And I've experienced that in one of the worst examples of
Oh,
denying
really?
the uncertainty. There was a rumor that this whole location, where it was my location, but I worked for the
Yeah.
organization, and I was sort of in this one particular location where we had like
Sure.
120 employees. And
Okay. That's fair.
there was a rumor that that location might be closing, and
Mm,
just came out of nowhere. So
mhm.
our leader, the one who is in the best position to either to squash the rumor or somehow confirm, hey, there's something going on, he
Yeah.
comes in and he gives us a speech about how closing this location would be like cutting off our right arm. And it was supposed to get us all really inspired that we're part of the big picture
Sure.
and nothing was going to change. And a few weeks later, I walk into the office and security is there, and everyone from like corporate HR is there, and people are going into rooms and getting told that they're being let go. And it was this whole mass layoff of the whole place. So talk about creating the opposite, right? You're almost boost of confidence, and you created this incredible uncertainty, which was brutal. Um,
No
and I had
kidding.
the double whammy of, I also felt a sense of like survivor's guilt because I wasn't let go. So I was one of the people who got to stay, lucky me, and go work at the headquarters again when I really didn't want to be part of this company anymore because I feel like they betrayed so many people. So that was not a win other than I had some job security for a little longer.
The emotional threat carried on even after
It
the
did.
actual
Oh
situation.
yeah. Because now,
Yeah.
did I have any confidence in anything senior leaders said going forward? I mean, you blew up trust with that one. So
Yeah.
certainty is a big one, and we tell people tell themselves the negative story. So be careful.
And then just to be clear then on the opposite that, so if I'm someone listening to that and go, "Okay, well, I don't wanna do that with my
Right,
team," what does that
right,
mean then? It's
yeah,
things like super clear agenda,
yes,
timelines that are realistic, like all the
yeah,
stuff that sounds basic, but it really does lead to that certainty piece, right? On whether people
yes,
feel safe
yes,
or threat. Giving honest updates about the state of the nation and what we know and what we don't. Like it could be
right,
as easy as that. It's fair?
yeah. Because when you read the definition of certainty, it's our ability to predict what's coming. So
I
we
like
are
that.
prediction machines. We're always scanning for threat and we're always trying to figure out what does it mean. The more you tell me what it means and it turns out to be true, the more certainty I have, the less threat I feel. So if
The
you tell
more
me what you can and it's true, we're not going to have a problem. I'm not going to be wondering and worried.
there's another effect to that then. I know that it's true. I know that it's behavior, and therefore I trust what you're telling
Yes.
me. You know,
Yeah.
that predictability directly links to the trust part of that.
Right. You earn certainty. You earn this trust through consistently telling people what you can
Predictability.
tell them and
Yeah,
then having that be absolutely true. That doesn't
right.
mean things don't change, but it's always being as much as you can a step ahead of that to say, hey, we're not sure, or here's what's happening next. There's only
Yes,
two answers. Here's what's happening next, or we're not sure, but here's what I can tell you. It's
right.
not silence. Silence leads to the most uncertainty, the most fear and threat.
Yes. Okay, I like that. Autonomy. This is a favorite one of mine, okay?
Yeah,
But
me
let's
too. It's one of the
right?
reasons why I don't work for anyone.
It's this is the reason why being employee is hard.
Yes, yes, exactly. And,
Oh my
I
god.
tend to do well with people who like autonomy too.
Yeah,
So that's why, you and
we get
I
along.
collaborate so well together and we are aligned so much philosophically, right? And autonomy is good old fashioned, the sense of control over our environment and what sort of comes next. Certainty and autonomy can be confused sometimes. Certainty is
Mm,
simply knowing what's around the corner. Autonomy is having some input on where we turn around the corner. Like, do we even make the turn and look around the corner? So
Yeah.
autonomy is like having some choices. It's not just sitting back and getting information, it's actually being able to act. So the big enemy of autonomy is micromanagers, people who are constantly telling you what to do and how to do it. And I've had a few of those moments in my career, and they're always the most painful.
Or is there also something in there about, it's like not just micromanaging, but like the removal of your power to
Yes.
to make a
Yes.
thing. It's like
Yes.
they've
Yes.
taken something away from you. It's not even just like picking apart what you're doing, but
Right. Right. That's absolutely right.
there's
That's half
something.
the equation, I think, because I think the
Yeah.
autonomy, the micromanagement thing is overarching, like controlling what you do. And then there's another piece of preventing you from doing anything, right? So it's the service industry is notorious for that, giving people no decision-making authority and no discretion to take care of the customer on their own without going up the. You ever get on a customer service call and you got to talk to the third or fourth person to give
Now,
you the $50 thing back?
you repeat
Like,
your account number 8 times. Like,
yeah,
oh, I punched it in. Why
yeah.
am I repeating it? It's just go down a whole piece there.
I'm
But
trying to resolve something that may cost the company $50, and they will spend $150 in labor costs to get me to someone who could finally say yes or no, and that person might say no at the end. It's hilarious.
yeah,
The
there's
first person could have said yes, you would have saved yourself $150 in labor costs for the 7 people I talked to.
the places where I've seen this done really well, and I think I've given examples before on here about some autonomy just because I'm so passionate about it.
Yes.
But even, Ritz-Carlton, I'll say that brand, they love it, they own it, but not everybody is fully aware of how much they embrace this idea of autonomy.
Hmm.
Because on day one, it does not matter what your title is. You are a steward, you are a housekeeper, you're a front desk agent. You're given a code to access $2,500 to this account. And the training, the education around this to the team members are, your goal is to use this money to impact the guest experience in the most positive and memorable way possible.
Yep.
Now, you can do this in any way you want, however you want, as long as you use up the money in this way. And now some people hear that and think, okay, but I bet at the end of the year, when they don't spend the money, their manager's coming around and going, thanks for that. I appreciate it. You might
Yeah.
think that's the case. It
Right.
isn't. It's actually the opposite. If team members have not used the funds appropriately, then there will be performance discussions about how they can do better about that
Right.
moving forward. It's actually the opposite. And I do think it's worth telling the one story because this is true. Maybe it's more famous, but I heard this directly from a Ritz-Carlton team member too. And I just thought it was so incredible because a guest had forgot their laptop in their room and
Hmm.
they were at a conference at another property, another Ritz-Carlton property in Hawaii 2 days later. And they realized they left their laptop at the resort they were at prior to departing. So
Hmm.
they called the hotel back, said, listen, I left my laptop. I need it for tomorrow. I don't know what we're going to do here. And one of the things I love about this story is it wasn't the exec housekeeper. It wasn't the front desk manager they called. It was the room attendant because the room attendant had him there all week, had established a relationship, knew exactly where the things were kept. They call the room attendant. The room attendant goes, no, I know exactly where it is. They go in, they get the laptop. They book a plane ticket, Joe. She books a ticket to
Oh my God.
Hawaii. She books a ticket to Hawaii. She walks into the hotel. She knocks on the door and she says, I believe this is yours, Mr. Johnson. And you want to talk
Hand
about
delivered a
creating guest.
laptop.
Yeah. And you talk about creating loyalty in that
Yes.
moment.
Yes.
But some people say, okay, but she got a free trip to Hawaii out of it. She booked a return ticket for the same day. That lady
Right.
was on a plane back the very next day just to be back in time for her shift. And I just think
Yeah.
these are the kind of stories you can't make up and you can't kind of write. But the idea
No.
of embracing autonomy, I encourage everyone, no matter what industry you are in, no matter what role you play, there is a way to tap into that for the people around you that has huge impact.
Yes. And I know what this, I think one of my sneaky skills is I know what the skeptics are going to say. And I love to tell the skeptics what they're going to say before they say it and show them why they're wrong. And this is one of those times. Skeptics are going to say, but you can't do this because if you give people autonomy, they're going to abuse it because there's some bad people out there who are going to like take that $2,500 and pretend someone was a guest and buy dinner for their friends at the restaurant. Well, yeah, there's people who will do that. And your job is to figure that out before you hire them or get rid of them when you do figure it out. Because you shouldn't surround yourself with people you don't trust. You shouldn't surround yourself with bad sort of seeds who are always looking to cheat the system. And by the way, if they are that desperate to cheat the system, maybe you don't treat them that well as an organization. So they feel like the only way they can get something is to screw the organization by, doing this kind of like underhanded stuff. I was going to say stealing, but it's not even stealing. It's more like just underhanded stuff. So either way, we either pick the wrong person or we make our people so unhappy they can't wait to screw us over by taking advantage of these things. But that person that you talked about had all the right elements. They were a good person. They worked for a company where they felt respected and empowered, and they did everything. Maybe their manager should have said, hey, going to Hawaii, stay the night in one of our hotels because that was such a great job that you did. Maybe that would have been a nice bonus to throw them, but that's not even essential, but it's a nice to have. But all that stuff is wrapped in this trust and loyalty because I treat you with respect so you give back to the organization appropriately. Because, it can't be a one-way street. We can't always give to the organization and the organization can always take from us. It has to be this give and take where we feel like we're respected and appreciated.
I like it.
That was my TED Talk.
Autonomy.
That was my soapbox.
Okay. That's good. The whole podcast is really our soapbox, isn't it, Joe, actually?
It's like we want to inform, we want to educate a little bit, maybe even inspire, and certainly help people change the things they're doing that aren't working so they have a better workday, right? Because if you have a better workday, you're going to be a happier person the rest of your day. You have a great workday when you feel that you can be yourself and you're accepted and you belong around people. So relatedness is this feeling of belonging. And we remember it back in school, like when maybe you go to a college class or your first day of school when you're a little kid and everybody's quiet because you don't know everyone in the room and you're not going to be yourself until it's safe. Because we've learned to not show ourselves until we feel safe.
It's jargon and nicknames. I'm trying to think of I had this client one time and they worked in an environment where it was very heavily weighted in one particular gender. And I remember the first time I was there because I'm trying to learn who people are and what's happening. And everybody in there had some sort of nickname, like, you're Joey Joester or whatever. Everyone had this nickname. And I had a really tough time. One, I'm trying to figure out, so who's who? But there was a moment where I felt left out, Joe.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like right. I didn't know. I wasn't in with the cool kids to know what the nicknames were and everything. And I ended up using it as an example later on with them to go like, imagine a new person starting and they're already intimidated and now they have no idea who's who and they have a nickname. I'm only here for a day and I feel left out type of thing. Yeah. And I remember sharing that with them and it didn't even occur to them. They were like, what do you mean? Yeah. I didn't even realize.
It's almost like they should have a practice of like, welcoming people by saying, so what's your nickname? Let's give you a nickname even for a day, to include you in that, to make it fun,
Yeah, it happens. It's a more realistic example might be, especially in today's workplace, is that remote person.
Yes.
Right? We're having a chat and we're having this meeting discussion. So-and-so can't be there in person. So they dial in.
Yeah.
Like what ends up happening, Joe, in that moment, do you think? Because I think it does have an effect.
I've experienced it where I was in a meeting multiple times where we forgot about the people on the phone. Like we started talking and showing slides and then almost like if there was a camera, they would have noticed everyone's reaction going, they forgot like somebody spoke on the phone and suddenly everybody remembered, oh, damn, there's somebody on the phone. So you got to be really careful how do you make that feel like it's really belonging and inclusion that's relatedness is based on. So how do people feel like included when they're on the phone for that one call or something? And it's not ideal. Sometimes you just have to do the best you can. But
We
can I say
printed
what
out the
relatedness comes
picture.
up for me quite a bit? It comes up for me with leaders taking on a new role. In particular, because I end up coaching people quite often when they're in line for promotion. They don't always get it, but they usually do. So they're kind of taking on a new position, and that involves managing former peers and all that kind of stuff. So it's complicated. But I always send this article to every either newly promoted leader or new leader, and it's called Connect, Then Lead. And it's a great article, and it's exactly what you think it is. It's you have to show people you care before you show them what you know. And showing them you care is this relatedness stuff. Let me just come in as a new leader and get to know you. What are you about, KayLee? Tell me about yourself. How's it worked here before? What do you think of your last leader? What was the best thing about that relationship? What do you love about your job? What would you change about your job? Like it's relating to you. So then when I start talking about my vision, I already know what you're doing. I'm not just pontificating like the person who comes in and has to. So many people want to come in and show they'd earned the position. They forget to connect first. And that's where they cause relatedness threat. Because guess what? Those people are meeting and they're saying, look at this guy. He doesn't even know what we do and he wants to change everything. How about you watch us for a week and figure out what we're doing right first before you change everything that ain't broken, buddy? And that's what happens all the time. People want to come in and change because they want to show their competence before they show the connection with others.
Even when it comes to building programs, if I think about like things that you and I do for a living and
Yeah,
whatnot,
yeah,
I find this is so important to figuring out what we are solving for versus just blanketed approaches to training or here's a program
yeah,
for a thing.
yeah.
And this relatedness part becomes super important to figuring out that what that is the thing that you want to really actually going to work on the floor. And I
Right,
remember
right.
we were looking at rolling out programs and meeting with the shift briefing, like going to the shift briefings and
Mhm,
listening to how that was happening on the floor,
mhm.
chatting with the folks around the table at lunch was all almost honestly more valuable than the exec meeting where we went, where
Mm,
do you guys see the gaps are, have those deep
yeah,
dive discussions for sure.
yeah,
But I just distinctly know that it changed the direction of the overall programming when we started talking to the people who it actually affect. And
mhm,
it came from a genuine care to build that relationship at all the
yeah.
levels, right?
And
Because
I'm sorry, I love that example. Were you done? I don't wanna cut you off.
no, I'm good. Yeah, go.
I love that example, and it's making me think of the overlap. Scarf is not these 5 individual things. There's a
Yeah.
lot it's oftentimes it's all of them or many of them. So what you just described is not just relatedness, it's also
Mm,
certainty and status. You know,
okay. Yeah.
you included people in something that impacted them. So they had more certainty of what was going to happen. They had more status because they were included. And they probably had a little more autonomy if some of their ideas turned out to be part of the training or the plan. So that's how it kind of connects the dots on the letters.
I really appreciate that because even though you might not consciously you're like, I'm going to follow
Yeah.
the R of the scarf model
Right,
today.
right. Yeah,
It's
don't do that. Don't go out there trying
yeah,
to check every letter off, please. It
no,
happens naturally when you're just being mindful of how people feel when they receive information and how people perceive threat. Simplify this to like just practical stuff. Hey, are people going to feel
right.
left out? Are people going to feel like I'm taking something away from them? Are people going to feel like I haven't included or asked them? That's where this comes from. This is not about having a checklist of scarf. And we didn't finish the model. So what, you want to finish that one? What do you think?
Well, I do, but I have one more for relatedness just as a tactic to help on the
No, go ahead.
safety side because we talked about that person who dials in and they're the only one that's on the
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah.
On a team previously, we had a printout cutout of each other's faces.
I love it.
You had to approve the cutout. It was a whole process, okay? But once you
That's
approved
fair.
the cutout to the face, whoever was the one who wasn't there, we taped them up on the phone, their
I love
face, like on the
that.
phone in the middle, and I'd take a picture of it, text it to them, like just so you know you're here with us, also your faces. And like, it was silly, but it honestly kind of worked.
No,
It
that's
was something
fun.
where like, we're not going to forget about you when your cutout face is taped to the phone. So we made a
That's
point of,
fun. I
I
love
just
that.
thought of that now. Like, that's another tip. Okay.
That's great.
Yes.
I do
Closing
want.
the
I
scarf
think
loop.
it's really nice that you had the user approved cut out of their face. That's good
Yes.
stuff.
That's my HR side, Joe. Let's make sure it's all on the up and up. Everything
Exactly.
is approved.
So
Okay. Fairness.
fairness. So this is good old fashioned fairness. It's
Good
hey, I
old
just feel like
fashioned
good
fairness.
old because like there's no need to define fairness. Something is fair or unfair, and we feel
Okay.
fairness. I think the reality is you create a threat of fairness or
Mm.
unfairness with people that might be hard for them to accept that it was actually fair. So the management here is not saying like you're always creating a feeling of unfairness. It's who might think this is unfair and how do you address that with them so they don't feel like it's unfair? Because we often conflate fairness and equality. Like, hey, we got to treat everyone equally in the team. Well, no, we have to actually look at high performers and make sure that they're happy because we don't want to lose them. We want to look at middle performers and make sure they feel valued and we're developing them. And we want to look at low performers and understand the impact they have if we don't develop them and they stick around for a long time, kind of poison the water hole. Because if the low performers are just allowed to infest the team, then we're doing a bad job. So I've seen this play out where, oh, it's not fair if I can't work from home. No, it's fair because you didn't earn the right to work from home because your work isn't at the level of, Sally's work. So Sally gets to work from home. This is before COVID stuff when people used to get work from home as like a recognition of, I
Oh.
trust you, you can work from home today. Um, and that's, by the way, that's why the return to office thing is so poorly received. It's because we haven't sorted out the stuff of who we can trust at home and not. So we just want everybody back because we don't want to do the work of figuring out who's actually working from home versus who's, playing with their dog all day and watching Netflix.
Oh my gosh. I feel like we could have a whole podcast on the work from home pieces because I was like,
Yes,
I have some
exactly.
thoughts
So
on
I'll
that,
leave
but
it.
I'm going to shelf it. I'm going to
Yeah,
shelf
let's
it
shelf it. Let's shelf it.
because when it comes to fairness for this, I'm trying to think of what the threat version looks like in real life. And
Yeah.
to me, the first thing I think of is playing favorites,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
Is that
Right.
like kind of like something like that where there's
Yeah.
this, it's either
Yeah.
favoritism or like the rules change based on who it is affecting type of thing?
Yeah.
So you get that, a
Yeah.
lack of transparency, like, I'm just trying to think about what
Well,
that
money,
looks
money.
like.
Companies tell people don't talk
Okay.
about money because they kind of know deep down that they haven't done it right across the board. So there's some inequitable money situations that if people found out, they'd be really pissed.
Yep, that would be a good example of it for
Yep.
sure. And the benefit then starts with, well, our favorite question, right, is the explaining the why. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
do they understand why we're doing it, why we made the decision, where it's coming from? I
Yeah.
feel like that's
For
gotta
every
be
aspect of this, by the
right.
way, we could
Yeah.
go back to status and say, hey, KayLee, you didn't get this project and I know you had your eye on it. And here's why I gave it to John. If you
Yes.
do that, your status threat can be minimized or eliminated completely. And we can do that for all pieces of this. Always disclose what you can. And that's where it becomes like scanning for threat. You don't want to have a scarf checklist and say, did I address status? Did I address? But you want to be mindful of how might people react to this message. And maybe that leads us into our tips, tricks. What are they? I forget the three
Wait,
T's.
our 3 T's, Joe, we gotta really
Yeah.
hammer this home. Okay, but just before the 3 T's,
Oh, sorry. Go
I
ahead.
had one more thought on the fairness part because
Please.
I I'm trying to wear my HR hat, like, from my HR days,
Yeah.
and as we know, in some ways, that particular function can be seen as governance, is seen as rule following, like the policy
Yes.
piece, and I know for me, I'd always be consciously pushing back against it, and so I'd use the policy or the governance as a last resort,
Yes.
and it was important to me to tell leaders or what is the right thing to do here? You know? Like not I just really want to put that
Yeah.
back is a question to say, I get the policy, I get the governance. Yes.
Yeah.
But can we just take a moment and go, what is the right thing to do in this situation?
Yeah.
And have a conversation about that. Because I feel like that's it's just different than just following the policy and it does lead into fairness in some way. Do you think?
Would you agree with this then? Like, all right, if you had to tell the story of this situation, what story would you be proud to tell?
Yeah.
Because if
Yes.
you're not proud to tell the story, then you've done some shady shit and you're probably not proud of it. And it was probably the wrong thing and it wasn't fair.
Yes. I think, yes. I think that's what I mean is that there's something in there about
Do the
if,
right thing. Spike
yeah.
Lee.
There we go. Anyways, that's my piece on the fairness. Like, just sometimes we need to remind
Nice.
ourselves, like, yes, policy, sure, but just is this the right thing to do? Let's have a conversation about that as an idea. Uh, okay, tips, tactics, or tools
Love it.
from the chat, from the conversation. If people got bored and were like, we don't want to listen to the first half and flip to the last 4 minutes, we at least want some practical takeaways, right?
There we go.
Okay, so here I got one. First one. Love my scale of 1 to 10 rating. You know I do. Okay. But here's how people could do this practically. At the end of the one-on-one conversation, at the end of the project rollout, at the end of the staff meeting, whatever it is, whatever it is when you're done talking about the thing, we say to the group, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how clear are you on what the next steps are? You know what I mean? Let's just go around. Let's keep it real simple like that. Simple, direct. Give me the number on 1 to 10. Because if everyone is going, yep, I'm a 10, absolutely, and we miss the deadline a week later, I have something to come back to and go, where did
Right.
what got
Right.
missed here? Because we were all a 10 in that meeting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that one. On a scale of 1 to 10, how clear are you on what the next steps are? Boom. Just as a
Yeah.
one piece.
And think about, just adapt the question to the context. It's a good check-in for anything, you know.
Yeah.
How much did you enjoy the experience, 1 to 10? You know what I mean? Like,
I like that on a one-on-one. I'm
yeah,
gonna try
it's
that.
like your net promoter score as a manager.
How would you rate this one-on-one?
How would you rate this one? After this one-on-one conversation, there will be an automated survey. If you answer 5 out of 5, if for any reason you won't answer 5 out of 5, all right, what's your second tip, trick, tactic, or tool? I made it a 4T somehow.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, my second one, I gave it a name. I'm calling it the 10-second certainty boost.
Okay.
This
Love
is what
it.
I'm calling it.
It's very catchy.
Is it? I don't know. I'm really thinking about 10s today. But I'm trying to focus on when the situation is really stressful or heavy. You know, if it's really stressful or heavy, there's a lot of overextension, stress involved. I think using phrases to start off the conversation by literally saying the words, here's what this is about. Here's why we are taking this action. Here's what you can expect. To just lay it out in a way, like I just like that verbiage. It's here's what this is about. Here's why we're taking these steps. Here's what you can expect. And if we do that, I think it really starts to alleviate that threat of certainty.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it alleviates a number of parts of SCARF. It's
Okay.
excuse me. It has multiple
Multifaceted there. So instead of saying, can we meet at 3:00? Like even something like that, you can say, can we meet at 3:00 to review the project timeline? Nothing is wrong. I just want to get an idea of where we're at in terms of hitting the milestone.
Perfect.
You know, like just that extra part of it to alleviate the person coming in there going, oh gosh, what did I do wrong?
Yes. Right. Because that uncertainty has all this fear that is irrational very often, but we just like telling ourselves a story that might make sense.
Yeah. So let them know nothing's wrong. I just want to go over this part of it. I just
Perfect.
want to align on next steps, right? Whatever that part is. Okay. Third tip I'm leaving for you, Joe.
Well, you know, as I forget what the third tip was, what is the third tip? And I'll talk about it.
No, you already know. I'm going to, how about this? I will trigger you to let your autonomy decide what you think the tip is, because instead of focusing on every aspect of this particular model, what could someone do if they just focused on one?
Exactly. Right. We don't want you to create a SCARF checklist where you walk around, you know, measuring threat, but you might say, hey, you know what, since this is a new tool for me to think about, it's a new process for me to think about, maybe I'm going to look for certainty this week and say, how can I create more certainty this week? So I'm going to look at my communications and say, did I give people enough detail so they understand what's coming? I'm going to check in with people to make sure they understand, you know, what's happening and so forth. And you could just pick a letter and kind of work it for a week to see if you could just enhance the impact of both minimizing threat and enhancing the reward of one of those letters. So keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it by trying to be a scarf model person who's walking around with a clipboard, but just introduce some of that into your day to day.
Perfect. I think we should thank the pod, who I, again, am just
The
really
quad.
trying to be a part of. I was going to call it the pod quad, Joe.
Oh, okay. That's cool. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
We
you
need
made
to
it
thank
cooler.
them for the suggestion on the topic. Super
Absolutely.
fun to chat about. And I'm excited for what we have stored next. We have some very fantastic guests coming up on future episodes.
Yes.
So
Now
looking
I like
forward.
the pod quad. It reminds me of an old TV show, The Mod Squad. So it rhymes.
Yeah.
That's how you date yourself on a
Trademark it.
podcast. People are going to
Yeah.
Google The Mod Squad and be like, what decade was that?
We listen and we don't judge here, Joe.
Exactly. Exactly. So did I have a black and white TV when I was a very little child? Yes, I did.
Oh my gosh. It's called experience, and that is
Yes,
fine.
that's
Yeah.
right. And now I see the world in full Technicolor.
Oh my gosh.
All right,
That's
good stuff. Awesome seeing you, talking with you. This was fun.
it.
I'll see you in a.
See you in a fortnight.
There we go. I never want to take your line away. See you
Okay,
soon.
thank you.
Take care.
Yeah. Bye.
All right. Bye bye.